Hi folks, welcome to the second recording of Coping from the Inside Out. My name is Sean and it's an early morning here in the Scottish borders. The world is waking up, all the birds, Twitter, and I thought this would be a good anxiety. And it's something that has plagued me for most of my adult life, from about the age of 13, when I had the onset of the first symptoms around a set of exams at the end of my junior school and my entry into high school. And it was the first round of major examinations. It was summer. I started to develop hay fever. I started to develop acute anxiety. And I was almost debilitated by the exam pressure at the time. And people at the time said, this is part of dealing with life. You've got to deal with these exams. You've got to get on with it. There was a very pragmatic, get to it kind of attitude to these kind of things in those days, certainly in the world that I was in. You weren't given much leeway, you certainly weren't given more time, unlike people who were perhaps dyslexic. And so I had to just not even cope, but survive the unpleasantness of that. And it's something that over the years, as I went through senior school and onto university, where there were more exams and more pressure, to some extent I learned to live with it, but I only really started to grapple with it when it got really serious in my early 20s, and it tripped into a major depressive episode. And that's when I finally got some kind of relief and treatment, and started to understand what I was actually experiencing, and went for therapy. So a lot of my life since that early episode, I've been having to fill out these forms, which those of you who are also coping with this condition may be familiar with, and it says, on a scale of 0 to 10, with 0 being the least and 10 being most days, rate this, and then it gives you some kind of thing to score, like, taking enjoyment out of the things that you're doing. And there's a whole load of other criteria that they use on a kind of assessment score. And I've always struggled with that, because I've always thought, this is an experience of something that is almost totally surrounding me when it happens. I can't break it down into these modular moments that they seem to want me to describe in these assessments. And it's a way for them to quantify and score how anxious you are, but it's not the way that I experience anxiety. The way I experience anxiety is as a kind of creeping up on me sensation of increasing waves of fear, you could say, of nervousness, of feeling jittery all over, and really apprehensive about what I'm going to do next, about what activities I'm doing, how that's going to impact me, what's the effect going to be on others, what kind of way people are going to perceive me. So I sort of also see it as being hyper aware, that I'm kind of looking out of myself and looking at the world and really sort of trying to see what is going on in every single corner of my life, how people are going to respond. And some of it is to do with performance, whether people are going to see me as a particular type of person, or give me a particular type of grade, or potentially give me a job, or a promotion within my job, or But it's debilitating because for me it has meant that on many occasions, although I feel I've achieved, and I have achieved highly in some ways, particularly academically, and I used to achieve quite highly with sports, that I am not able to take enjoyment in those activities. I'm not able to compete in the way that other people might see life as being manageable and to do it with a sense of confidence and ease. And so I should imagine if you're listening to this, you might have some idea of what I'm talking about. And we're told that this is meant to be a kind of misadaptation of what is actually our adaptive capacity to survive, to use our instincts, to be aware of what's going on around us in the world, and to perhaps predict where sources of danger might be coming from when we're needed to react quickly, that we have these high set responses and awarenesses that allow us to process data from the environment that much more effectively and quickly. And that to some extent, when you are an anxious person, it's because you've got these capacities, you've got these abilities. You're perhaps somebody who should be essential to the pack, to the human group, the community, because you're able to pick up on the things that people should be aware of, and that they might need to take action to stay safe, or to reformulate their way of doing things, so that the saber-toothed tiger, doesn't come and eat us all, or that if there is a danger out there for the community, be it somebody that we're not sure about, or a situation that's demanding too much of us and our community, that we are able to address that. But as the signal person, too often in modern life we are ignored, and this system is seen as being dysfunctional, that we have a problem and that we need to deal with that problem because it is dysfunctional somehow. And I don't agree with that, but I think that we are living in a time when a lot of our natural capacities, our instincts, our inherent ways of coping physically and mentally are being challenged by very strange and indirect problems. And so we are not fitting well, some of us, into this system, and we don't necessarily need to feel bad about that, and we shouldn't feel bad about that, because it's a kind of very useful tool which we can't always use properly or get a grip on. And this is a complex condition that probably needs several of these kind of discussions, and that's the kind of diagnosis for me, if you want to put it that way. What is this problem that afflicts me? What are its manifestations? I see it particularly in my little Jack Russell, who also has this mechanism of being highly aware, highly anxious. She's able to pick up on sounds and smells from a very long way away, and at times is debilitatedly anxious because she's had some experiences in life which unfortunately I couldn't protect her from, and other dogs who have been aggressive, and she now is afraid of, wary of dogs because she's got this experience in mind, which is sensible because she's had a bad experience with a dog. But unfortunately, because she's so sensitive, it means that she can't cope with the potential that she's meeting new dogs, and she's learning slowly, and as she gets older it's calming down. She's able to spend more time with other dogs, she's able to be more relaxed when she meets new dogs, and I guess that kind of there are lots of different terms for it, stranger danger, performance anxiety. There's probably numerous types which I don't have a clear sense of, because I'm talking at this from the inside and not as a health professional. I want to explore what these sensations are, how we are thinking about ourselves, and hopefully how other people out there are thinking about this problem. Maybe there are ways which we are thinking about things that are not being absorbed into the clinical programs, the psychological programs. And certainly I've had some success with therapies, and I've had some failures, and I've had some that have just kind of made a bit of sense but not worked so well. And I had a very powerful therapeutic experience, partly because I really got on extremely well with the therapist, who was a narrative therapist, and she was exceptionally clear at how to build up a sense of my surroundings and my way of dealing with my surroundings and what I should steer clear of. Things like alcohol can be really problematic to people who have acute anxiety or maybe prone to depression. The central nervous system depressants, they can do a lot of damage. They can leave you very depleted. They can destroy your nerves, and equally certain behaviors like assessing real risk, assessing real danger of others, is a significant part of learning to live with anxiety. But I think one of the things as I get older that I find the most difficult is that it can be very socially isolating, and that although at times I can be out there and be with people and get on, this catch of feeling anxious or just hesitant or putting off going to something or doing something, it can accumulatively in particular cause long-term problems, and it is disabling. It is something that one has to learn to deal with, and can feel quite debilitating, and some people really have much stronger experiences of this condition and are much more, in a sense, debilitated by it. And I guess I'm also fortunate in that I have a level of function which I can rely on, and I try to do practices, particularly physical practices like Tai Chi has helped me a lot. Giving up alcohol has helped me a lot. Having some kind of counseling or therapy going on, because these conditions can creep up on you and they can do a lot of damage in the long run. And I think that's the part that scares me most now, is that it's finding ways to prevent that long-term damage. And if you're in your younger years and you're experiencing this, it's something that you should reach out to somebody, reach out to your GP, ask for help from your community if you can find it through a church or a social group. Some places are lucky enough to have really good community infrastructure, youth organizations that help people to express art and music in particular. I've recently joined a singing group, and I've found it really, really beneficial because it helps to kind of express that part of my self. It helps to use the airways, and it helps to open up the chest, and that can be tremendously useful with anxiety. And also taking medications can be very helpful, which I'm not advocating, but I just have had myself to take even things like hay fever tablets. And there are ways to treat this condition. So I would like to talk about this more in future sessions. And I guess this is really the next step in one direction from that first recording, looking more holistically at the whole series of potential discussions into one about anxiety. And next time I may choose to focus on something a little bit different, or I think maybe I might look at an artwork which might help to represent some of my feelings about anxiety. I'll just see what comes through. So thank you so much for listening, and I hope that you have benefited from listening to this, and I will hopefully speak to you again soon. Okay, thank you.